Welcome. We are back today again with another conversation. News and views are today all about the election to the 14th President of the Indian Republic. Who will be the next President, Ramnath Kovind or Meera Kumar? Dalit President? Not for the first time. The last time we had a Dalit President in India was in 2002, the year of the infamous Gujarat carnage when K.R. Narayanan was in the post. He almost visited Gujarat but then was persuaded by the then Prime Minister Vajpayee, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, not to go. But APJ Abul Kalam, who was the 11th President of India, will be remembered for his visit to Gujarat in August 2002. We've had many illustrious figures in the post of President. Dr. Zakir Hussain was one such. He will be remembered for his lasting contribution in the field of education and communal harmony as well. Dr. Zakir Hussain was President from 1962 onwards, a post he got after S. Radhakrishnan was elevated to the post of President. Before that, Zakir Hussain will be remembered since 1920 when he was one of the founder members with Maulana Azad to the Jamia Millia Islamia, then for being an author of the National Basic Education Policy along with Gandhi, and for many such issues. When he was Governor of Bihar, just like Mr. Ramnath Kovind was Governor of Bihar before he was made President-elect by the NDA just now, Zakir Hussain was Governor of Bihar, and in that period between 1959 and 1962 when he held that constitutional position, the then Congress government in the state had tried to bring in a bill in the state to curb university research freedom. Hussain put his foot down because he stood for independence and integrity and autonomy, and that bill could never be passed and made into law. He'll also be remembered for being Vice Chancellor of the Aligarh Muslim University after partition. But another Muslim president, you had Abul Kalam, you had Fakhruddin Ahmad, and you had Zakir Hussain. Fakhruddin Ahmad, unfortunately, will be linked to the infamous Declaration of Emergency, June 25, 1975, under Indira Gandhi, which he signed under her pressure. So that's what this whole debate is about, President and Vice President. 18 opposition parties have together come together for a unanimous Vice President candidate, none less than the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi and also the grandson from his maternal side of S. Radhakrishnan, Gopal Krishna Gandhi. Another man, a citizen he calls himself, whose illustrious career has been in the civil services. Now the Sangh Parivar, not known for his decency in public discourse, started trolling him and in fact hurling invectives on him moment his candidature was declared. What was his offence? He supposedly argued against the death penalty for Yaqub Memon. Gopal Krishna Gandhi, dignified as always, had a lovely reply. If Mahatma Gandhi's sons, he said, could ask for clemency and mercy for Nathuram Godse and Narayan Apte, it's not about Yaqub Memon or Nathuram Godse, it's about being against the death penalty. Death penalty, says Gandhi, Gopal Krishna Gandhi, belongs to medieval times and has no place in a civilized society. The issue is not who should be given it, but that nobody should be given it. So at this time when we are talking about Dalits, Dalit Vice President, Muslim Vice President, who should be the Vice President, what is the position of Dalits in India? Yesterday, BSP Supremo Mayawati resigned from the Rajya Sabha, protesting at the fact that the ruling party benches, the Bharatiya Janata Party, refused to let her speak on Dalit atrocities. She began her speech with the suicide, institutional murder as it is called, of Rohit Vemula, the research scholar, went on to speak about the Una agitation and also spoke about Shabirpur in Saharanpur in western UP, where Dalits were badly treated under Yogi Adityanath rule. Barely had she started speaking, then the ruling party benches did not allow her to speak. It's 1 year since now the public flogging of the Dalit families in Una, Modi's home state, which has risen and got Dalits to rise in public anger and also form an agitation under the young Dalit iconic leader Jignesh Mevani. Gungat se naata todo, Zameen se naata jodo has been Mevani's slogan. And yesterday, at the conclusion of the 1 year commemorative Azadi Coach Yatra, 7 Dalit families reclaimed their land in Lavara Bhavnagar and ensured that Dalit rights should also be linked to land rights. A difficult one there because nobody wants to give over the control of land. when we talk about the situation of Dalits, we also need to talk about septic tank murders or deaths that happen because poisonous gas in our septic tanks, and our simple refusal as a society and as a government to mechanize this very undignified task. Beswara Wilson, the Magsaysay Award winner, says clearly that we should actually Beswara Wilson, Magsaysay Award winner, clearly says that when you have a prohibition of employment as Manual Scavenging Act 2013, how can state governments and central governments claim that there are no such deaths? 39 deaths in the last 100 days, he said. And some figures show us that in 1 year alone, there are 22,000 deaths all over the country because of the poisonous gas in septic tanks. A shocking state in a civilized country. The other crucial issue that has come up in the last few days is Baba Ramdev, very well known for his Patanjali Ayurved Limited, which has kind of profits have soared from 5,000 crores to 1,000 crores. He is now actually getting into the Suraksha business, the private security business. And he has announced that he will now set up a private security firm. And this will add to the Ramdev empire. Is there anything to be worried about when an established businessman starts one more lucrative business? Not per se, but we need to remember that in April 2016, the same Baba Ramdev, at a meeting in Haryana, said anybody who says that anyone who refuses to say Bharat Mata Ki Jai should be beheaded. Not only that, he even said that even though we may have a constitution and we respect it, we also have the capability of beheading not one but thousands of people. Now, who was he aiming at? And a man like this, if he starts a private security business, which is a fast growing business in India, it's an sought for business for unskilled laborers and former farmers who are thrown out of their jobs because of an agrarian crisis, and these are in the millions. The Modi government has not really ensured employment to the youth in this country. Should we be worried? With the kind of rabid definitions of who is national and who is anti-national, it's very, very likely that such security businesses could actually be used just like the Gau Rakshaks and the cow vigilantes are today to target certain sections of the Indian population. I also remember that in 2007, it's not just Baba Ramdev, but it is the entire Sangh Parivar that believes in a militarized civil society. When the Nanded blast took place, suddenly the charge sheet threw up the whole question of the Bajrang Dal and RSS run arms training camps. The Bhosle Academy, where former army men go and actually train young people in a perverted view of Hinduism. It's not the real Hinduism, which is eclectic and believed by all, but it's a militarized form of Hindutva which actually creates false enemies and ensures that young people are constantly in a state of aggression. We are into about 3 years of the Modi regime, and if you remember, soon after May 2014, the official debate even by corporates was that as much as 5,000 crores had been poured in by corporates to ensure that his campaign was successful. Unofficially, figures went up to as much as 15,000 crores. Now you wonder whether it's payback time, because suddenly you have a spate of privatizations taking place. The latest is the Air India privatization. And the arguments being made by many people is why the Indian Maharaja should not be sold off. And should not the government explore alternative routes like restructuring or sale, redevelopment of some of its real estate, but not sell off the entire corporation, especially when a third or more of many of its routes are still profitable, particularly the Gulf routes? Why is the Indian government then under Modi so keen on selling off all public assets to the private sector? And who will be beneficiaries of this largesse? Will it be the same set of crony capitalists who backed Modi's campaign and the BJP's campaign? That's the real question. It's important to understand that for every one private airline that has been successful since the Indian skies opened up in 1992, two have gone belly up, as they say. Even the prima donna of private airlines, Jet Airways, is not much of an experience to write home about. And third, if you can have public-private partnerships, for instance, say in the Delhi Metro Corporation, DMRC, which is jointly owned by the Union government and the Delhi government, it's a classic example of this. Why can't you have the same model for Air India? Why can't you have the goods and services tax model network, again which says something like 50% of the equity to private investors, institutional investors, and 49 to public institutional investors. Should it all have to go directly to the private sector? That's the question that people are asking, and it's a tricky question. Let's not forget that just last month, 27 railway stations were similarly sold off by the Indian government to the public sector. And today, Scroll has a story that the Niti Aayog plans to hand over our entire health in the 1,000+ bed hospitals to the private sector. Not maybe the entire health, but the blood banks and many of the profitable elements will not be kept again with the government hospitals. Now, Bombay, Mumbai has been known for its good public hospitals, KEM, King George's, Sion, etc. Now, all of this going private will really mean that healthcare in our metro cities, in the 1,000+ bed hospitals, will become unaffordable for a large section of the population. But who's going to ask these questions? And who's going to question what sort of privatization and who should the beneficiaries be? So the assault seems to be relentless. On the one hand economic, on the one hand social. But one of the most dangerous things that happened in the last week, maybe 3-4 days back, is when a very popular humor group, it's called AIB, was actually booked by the Bombay police. And why were they booked? Because they actually put up a puppy dog filter on the face of India's Prime Minister. Now remember, actually India's Prime Minister has a fondness for the dog as a simile. When he was talking to Reuters in July 2013, he had explained away the 2002 violence which happened under his watch, actually saying that if someone else is driving a car and we are sitting behind, even if a puppy comes under the wheel, will it not be painful or not? Now the same puppy filter, when it's put on Narendra Modi's face as Prime Minister, becomes liable for a criminal offence. The Bombay police was very quick to act when it was provoked by some bucks to do so. The same Bombay police, however, has on multiple occasions ignored sexual harassment complaints of women who have been trolled on Twitter, had obscenities put against them, but no action from the same Bombay police. It's a little frightening really, where our police is acting, what is them making them act. Is it the Constitution of India? Is it the rule of law? Or is it the political bosses in power? We leave you with some of these questions then, and see you soon.